There is a silent sculptor working in the shadows of your mind, shaping, carving, breathing form into your destiny with every thought you choose to keep. For what you think, beloved soul, you become. Not someday, not when the world applauds, but in every moment, in every breath, in the quiet architecture of your unseen beliefs. The universe does not speak in words. It listens to vibration. And the thoughts you carry are not whispers, they are commands. Sacred blueprints delivered to the formless by the forger of your reality, your inner dialogue. A thought is not merely passing wind, it is seed, it is fire, it is invitation. And like all sacred things, it asks only for your attention to grow. You do not become what happens to you. You become what you interpret, what you dwell upon, what you silently repeat when no one else is listening. The mind is a garden, and you are both gardener and soil. If you plant fear, you will reap trembling. If you plant love, you will grow wings. The ancient mystics did not shout this truth, they whispered it in silence, passed it down in breath. Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, all spoke the same song in different languages, that the world is not as it is, but as you are, that the outer is but a mirror reflecting the inner, that your perception is creation. So many wander through life blaming the storm, never realizing they are the thunder. They curse the dark, forgetting they are holding the candle. They ask for peace while feeding the wolves of worry. But you, dear one, are waking, and in that awakening comes a holy responsibility to guard your thoughts as sacred offerings, not casual echoes. For every thought sends a ripple into the quantum sea. Every thought is prayer. Every thought is a doorway, and whether it leads to freedom or imprisonment depends on how you use the key of your mind. You were not born with fear. Fear is inherited, absorbed. Learned like a song you didn't mean to memorize, but you can unlearn it too. You can change the station. You can stop dancing to the rhythm of lack and tune yourself to abundance, to trust, to truth. Because the truth is, you are not a victim of thought. You are its master. But mastery does not mean force. It means awareness. It means observing each thought like a passing cloud, choosing not to chase the storm. It means noticing when the ego speaks with its trembling voice of scarcity and gently choosing love instead, not with a fight, but with a breath, a return, a remembering. The ego will tell you that you are your past, that your identity is built on what has been broken, that your worth depends on how you perform, how you're seen, how you compare. But the soul speaks a different language. It says you are already whole, you are already light, you are already home. And the mind, that beautiful, busy instrument, will reflect whatever conductor you give it. It can be the orchestra of doubt or the symphony of truth, but the choice is yours. What you dwell on, you magnetize. What you affirm, you multiply. What you imagine, you begin to embody. So imagine wisely. Think as though every thought is a prayer being answered because it is. Think as though the universe is saying yes to whatever you offer because it does. Not because it favors one person over another, but because it reflects without judgment. It is a mirror, not a parent, a receiver, not a critic. If you say, I am unworthy, the universe will align circumstances to echo that belief. If you say, I am divine, it will rush to prove you right, not because it rewards you, but because it cannot help but reflect the vibration you hold. The law is love. The law is reflection. You are not powerless. You are a creator cloaked in forgetfulness. But now the veil is thinning. Now the sacred remembrance is stirring. Now you are feeling it, that quiet, knowing that your thoughts are not passive, that they are portals. They are not harmless daydreams, they are energy. They are cause. They are becoming. And so I ask you, what are you feeding your future with? What are you whispering into the field of infinite potential? Is it, I am not enough, or I am eternal presence? Is it life is hard, or life is my teacher? Is it, I am broken, or I am becoming? You may not control every thought that arises, but you can choose which ones to invite in, which ones to give a seat at your sacred table. The guest you feed becomes the master of your house. Let the guest be love. Let it be peace. Let it be the stillness that sees beyond appearances, that remembers even in chaos that all is unfolding for your highest remembering. When you think a thought long enough, it becomes a belief, and a belief repeated becomes your identity. And your identity is what you live from, not as a mask, but as a magnet. You will not attract what you want, you will attract what you are. So become the thing you seek. Become love, and love will echo. Become peace, and peace will bloom. Become trust, and the path will unfold beneath your feet. Not because you forced the world to change, but because you changed how you see. And how you see determines what you receive. This is not delusion. This is alignment. This is ancient wisdom, dressed in modern clothing. What you think, you become, and what you become, you bless the world with. So bless it now. Not later, not after the evidence, not once it's safe. Bless it now by blessing your thoughts. Speak gently to yourself, for your body hears. Think kindly of others, for your energy ripples. Dream boldly, for the universe is listening with open arms. You are not here to be right. You are here to be light. And the light cannot shine through thoughts steeped in fear, in judgment, in self-rejection, but it will pour through the window of acceptance, of gratitude, of quiet trust. There is a current beneath your mind, the still, sacred presence of your soul. It is older than thought. It is truer than identity. And when your mind aligns with that current, your life flows like a river returning to the sea. This is the path, not to fix, but to align, not to chase, but to become, not to strive, but to allow. And as you allow the thoughts of truth to take root, thoughts like, I am already enough, I am safe to trust, I am part of the divine dance, your life begins to change. Not because the world shifted, but because you did. What you think, you become. So become the love that does not wait for permission. Become the joy that rises without reason. Become the peace that stands undisturbed by the waves. Become it in thought, in word, in vibration, and watch as the universe bends to meet you there. You are not here to react. You are here to remember. And the remembrance begins in thought. Speak to yourself as God would speak, with infinite patience, unwavering compassion, and a knowing of your unshakable worth. And as you do, you will not just become new. You will become true. And that, beloved one, is everything. And yet there will be days when the old thoughts return. Like ghosts of a former self, they come not to harm you, but to be seen, to be felt, and finally to be released. These thoughts are not your enemies. They are echoes, remnants of the stories you once believed you had to live by. Stories of inadequacy, of struggle, of not enoughness. They were never the truth, only the illusion worn by truth to help you remember. And remember you must, not just with the mind, but with the whole of your being. The remembrance of who you truly are cannot be grasped through logic or intellect alone. It must be lived. It must be felt in the marrow of your bones, in the stillness of your breath, in the sacred silence behind every heartbeat. The thought, I am unworthy, cannot survive in the presence of deep awareness. Awareness is not a thought, it is the space that holds all thought. It does not argue with fear, it simply shines through it. Like sunlight pouring into a darkened room, it does not ask permission. It does not knock. It simply enters and reveals what was always there, hidden beneath the veil of forgetfulness. And when you remember, truly remember that your thoughts are the brushstrokes painting your life, you begin to choose differently. You begin to create consciously. You begin to speak to yourself with reverence, not criticism, not because someone told you to, but because your soul demands it, because the divine within you will no longer tolerate the abuse of small thinking. You see, the most violent thing we do is not with fists or words, it is the quiet way we betray ourselves in thought. The subtle, constant drip of not good enough, the mental habit of diminishing your light before anyone else can. But this self-betrayal ends the moment you claim your role as the thinker, not the thought. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. You are not the wave of fear, you are the ocean beneath it. And though the mind may forget, the soul never does. It is always known. It watches your every thought, not with judgment, but with longing for you to wake up and see what it has always seen, that you are infinite now and always. What you think, you become. So think gently, think powerfully, think truthfully. Not just affirmations for the sake of affirmation, but declarations rooted in spiritual knowing. Say to yourself not merely, I am strong, but I am the strength of the universe in form. Not just I am loved, but I am love itself. Wearing a name, let your thoughts not be wishful, Let them be declarations of what already is. The soul does not dream of becoming, it remembers that it already is. It is only the ego that scrambles for titles, for roles, for evidence of worth. But the soul simply is unchanging, unmoved, untouched by circumstance. And when your thoughts align with the soul, miracles unfold. Not because the outer world changes overnight, but because your perception of it does. And perception, dear one, is everything. The way you see colors, the way you live. If you think the world is out to get you, it will appear that way. If you think the world is a teacher, every challenge becomes a lesson. If you believe you are guided, life becomes a conversation with the divine. So I ask you, who would you be without your oldest thoughts? Who would you be without the belief that you have to prove yourself? Without the story that something outside you must change for you to be happy? Without the lie that your worth is negotiable? Pause, breathe, and feel the answer. Not with your mind, but with your presence. You would be free. You would be light. You would be you. And that, in its raw, untamed, unedited form, is more than enough. The practice then is simple. Not easy, but simple. Return, again and again, return. When the old thought arises, thank it for its service. It was once a survival tool, but no more. Now, you are living, not surviving. Now you are creating, not reacting. And you create through the gateway of thought, not just with intention, but with surrender. With the quiet trust that what you water grows, that the universe bends not to your demand, but to your belief. So believe in what is true. Believe in your own divinity. Believe that your thoughts are not random, they are the whispers of the future calling you home. And in that home, in that sacred sanctuary of awareness, you will find not answers, but peace. Not control, but surrender. Not perfection, but presence. And presence, dear soul, is the soil of miracles. You are not becoming something new. You are becoming aware of what you've always been. So think the thoughts that bring you back. Think the thoughts that remind you. Think the thoughts that dissolve the illusion of separation. And with every thought, build a temple, not outside you, but within. For what you think, you become. And you, beautiful soul, were always meant to become whole. Chat tipiti danoi, and as this unfolding deepens, something within you begins to loosen an inner clasp that held tightly to old identities, old definitions, old scripts that never truly fit. You find yourself no longer compelled to be consistent with who you once believed you were. You are no longer interested in defending the story. There is a gentle rebellion awakening in your heart, not against the world, but against the illusion that you must keep shrinking to survive within it. You start to feel your thoughts before you believe them. You sense the quiet texture behind each inner narrative, discerning not just the words, but the frequency they carry. And when a thought arrives dressed in the language of fear or separation, you no longer invite it in as truth. You greet it with stillness, observe it like a passing stranger, and let it go without becoming its echo. It is here, in this newfound intimacy with your own mind, that freedom takes root, not the kind promised by escape or achievement, but the kind that blooms in presence. You begin to understand that your greatest liberty was never tied to circumstances. It was always in your capacity to meet your own awareness without resistance. To look upon your thoughts not as enemies, not even as facts, but as possibilities. Some you outgrow, some you bless and release. Some you allow to become the seeds of your next becoming. And this becoming, it has no destination. It does not follow a map. It is not a climb nor a conquest. It is a deepening, a gentle descent into the truth of your own being, where what once felt like struggle now feels like refinement, like fire shaping gold, not as punishment, but as revelation. You stop fearing discomfort, for you come to know its secret. That discomfort is not a curse, it's a calling, a sacred bell ringing in your bones, asking you to come closer to what you have avoided, not to be hurt, but to be healed. And the moment you cease resisting, the energy once spent in denial transforms into clarity. The thought loses its edge. The story loses its grip. And in its place, a deeper truth emerges, not loud, but steady, not showy, but undeniable. You are no longer content with thoughts that carry the residue of survival. You begin to crave thoughts that nourish, that soothe, that illuminate. And you don't force them. You don't reach for affirmations like shields. You simply let the truth rise, from the silence that's always been waiting behind the noise. A truth that says without condition, you are not behind, you are not late, you are not broken. You are simply unfolding, moment by sacred moment. And what a miracle it is to witness this unfolding from within, to see yourself with eyes that do not demand improvement, but offer presence, to meet each breath not as a step toward somewhere else, but as a sacred arrival. You find holiness in the mundane, wisdom in the stillness, an entire universe in a single conscious thought. The old ways no longer seduce you. The need to be understood, to be approved, to be seen a certain way, it begins to fade like smoke in the morning Sunday, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand. Those things are not love. They are echoes of longing, mistaken for direction. And now you have chosen a new direction, one that begins and ends within. Here you no longer try to manage your life with clenched fists. You don't curate your reality to match the expectations of others. You no longer shrink yourself to fit what's familiar. You let the old thoughts crumble. You let the false images dissolve. You allow the soft, luminous truth of who you've always been to rise unfiltered, unpolished, unashamed. And from that rising, a new way of living is born. A way that no longer hinges on achievement, but on authenticity. A way that doesn't measure worth by speed, but by depth. You stop asking how far you've come and start wondering how fully you've arrived. You stop counting milestones and start honoring moments. Each thought becomes an altar. Each breath, a return. Each choice to think with clarity and compassion becomes an act of sacred rebellion against the narrative that you must be anything other than this. This is the true awakening. Not a thunderclap, but a soft, continuous opening. A holy return to the simplicity of being, the grace of witnessing. The quiet joy of living as someone who no longer confuses their thoughts with their identity. And in this clarity, you are not just free, you are whole. You are not just becoming, you are remembering. And now that you remember, the need to strive begins to dissolve like mist in the rising Sunday. You find that life is not something to conquer, but something to companion. It walks with you, not ahead of you. It does not demand explanation. It does not rush. It waits for your alignment, for your agreement to no longer war with the moment you're in. And from this sacred ceasefire, peace is born, not the peace that depends on quiet surroundings, but the kind that hums beneath every sound, every heartbeat, every circumstance. You become a listener again, not just with your ears, but with your soul. You listen to the language of stillness, the silence between words, the pauses that speak louder than the sentences ever could. You begin to trust what cannot be seen but can always be felt. The guidance that has no voice yet speaks volumes. And you follow it, not because you understand every step, but because something in you knows it is holy. With each step you take from this knowing, the world reveals a new face. You see not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of wonder. The mundane becomes magical. A stranger's smile becomes a message. The breeze through the trees becomes a teacher. You realize that life was never hiding its divinity. It was waiting for you to slow down enough to see it. And how beautiful it is to see clearly without the filter of fear. To witness yourself not as a project in progress, but as a presence already whole. You begin to speak less from habit, more from presence. You no longer fill the silence to prove you exist. You rest in it. You let it hold you. And in that stillness, you feel a kind of intimacy with life that cannot be explained, only lived. Your thoughts, once scattered like dry leaves, begin to gather in harmony. They become less reactive, more reflective, less urgent, more spacious. And in that space, wisdom arises, not from books or teachings alone, but from your own deep being. You realize that the truth you sought has always been nestled within your breath, your body, your being, waiting, patient, eternal. You start to understand the difference between movement and momentum, between action born of fear and action born of alignment. You stop chasing outcomes and begin creating from essence. Not to impress, not to acquire, but to express the quiet beauty that lives within you. You create not to become something more, but because you can't help but share the truth you've touched. And your presence begins to do the work that words never could. Your being becomes a sanctuary for those around you. Without effort, without performance, you bring peace into rooms simply by standing in your own. You listen without needing to respond. You love without needing to be loved back. You give without keeping score, because abundance flows from you, not toward you. This is the paradox of awakening, that in surrender, you rise. That in silence, you hear. That in stillness, life begins to move through you in ways your ego could never orchestrate. And you are humbled, not in shame, but in awe. Humbled to be a vessel. Humbled to be breathed. Humbled to remember that you are not the doer, but the dancer moved by a rhythm you no longer need to understand in order to trust. And trust now becomes your new ground, not blind faith, but embodied knowing, a knowing that whatever arises, you are not alone within it. A knowing that you are not here to control the waves, but to learn how to ride them with grace. And the fear of falling, it softens. Because you have fallen before and risen stronger. Because you now know that even the fall is sacred. That even in descent, something deeper ascends. So you no longer ask for certainty. You ask for presence. You no longer demand clarity before you move. You move because you are in tune with the movement within. The old need to predict gives way to a new willingness to feel. And from that feeling, the next step is always clear, not in the mind, but in the heart. And the heart, oh, the heart, it becomes the new compass. Not a fragile thing to be guarded, but a powerful current of truth. No longer a victim of longing, it becomes the source of love itself. No longer closed to protect itself, it opens wide, vulnerable, yes, but untouchable. Because when love flows from within, nothing outside can diminish it. You live from that flow now, quietly, radiantly, and without trying, you become a light, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that reminds others of their own. And that is enough. That is everything. You cannot move forward holding on. And yet, how tightly we cling to the echoes of old wounds, to memories turned into monuments, to pain mistaken for identity. We wrap our hands around what once hurt us, believing that in the holding we are somehow safer. As if letting go would be betrayal. As if forgiveness would mean forgetting. But the soul knows otherwise. The soul does not seek comfort in chains. It seeks flight. There is a heaviness that builds when we carry yesterday into every tomorrow. It presses against the spirit like wet garments clinging to the skin, refusing to fall away. And we wonder why we feel stuck, why joy eludes us, why freedom feels like something meant for someone else. But we are not trapped by life. We are bound by our refusal to release what no longer lives. You cannot be both the healer and the wound. You cannot soar and drag your past behind you like a net through the sea. There must come a sacred moment, not loud, not grand, when you simply decide, I am done rehearsing this pain. I am done feeding a story that has long since ceased to nourish me. Not because the past did not matter, but because my future does. The soul, timeless and tender, does not cling, it moves, it dances, it trusts the flow of becoming. And each time you choose to hold on to the betrayal, the guilt, the regret, you interrupt the rhythm of your own transformation. You become out of step with life's music. You lose the thread of the sacred now. But hear this truth. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to carry forward. And the miracle is that you are allowed in this very breath to set it down. Not because it didn't shape you, but because it does not define you. The weight may have once protected you, but now it only slows your becoming. Let the grief be felt, yes. Let the tears come like rain upon dry earth. Let the sorrow speak, for it holds wisdom too. But do not make a home in the ache. Do not build an altar to what broke you. Grieve, and then open your hands. For the soul is always ready to rise, but it will not rise with what you refuse to release. The climb into higher ground requires lightness, and lightness begins with surrender. And surrender is not weakness. It is strength beyond reason. It is the courage to say, I am more committed to my peace than to my pain. I am more loyal to the life ahead of me than to the one that wounded me. I choose to no longer punish myself with the memory of someone else's harm. This is how healing begins, not with forgetting, but with choosing. Choosing to step out of the shadow and into the light. Choosing to breathe deeper than the wound. Choosing to say, I bless the past for what it taught me, and now I bless myself by letting it go. You cannot move forward holding on. The river does not cling to the stone it passes. The wind does not argue with the trees it bends. Life flows not because it forgets, but because it trusts what's next more than it needs to understand what was. And you, beloved, are a life in motion. You are not meant to repeat. You are meant to renew. You are not here to preserve a version of yourself built in survival. You are here to live from the fullness of your soul. So open your hands, open your heart. Let the old fall away like leaves returning to the earth. And in that sacred falling, feel the lightness returning. You are not losing anything real. You are reclaiming the space to become. And now you are even. Not to a finish line, but to a deeper stillness. Not to a place, but to a state of being that was waiting beneath every moment of resistance. This is not the end. This is the beginning that has no end. The sacred return to your original self, untouched by time, unmarked by wounds, undimmed by the noise of the world. You are no longer moving forward with clenched fists or weary striving. You are gliding, not because the path has changed, but because you have. The weight you once believed was part of you, the shame, the fear, the doubt. You now see it for what it always was. Borrowed, and like breath that is no longer needed, you exhale it into the vastness of grace. And in that grace, a new world awakens, not outside you, but within. It was always there, beneath the stories, beneath the striving, beneath the masks you wore to feel safe. A place where nothing needs to be earned, where love is not a transaction, where joy is not conditional, where peace is not a reward, but your very nature remembered. You move now from this inner sanctuary. Not faster, but clearer. Not louder, but fuller. You understand that life is not asking you to be extraordinary. It is asking you to be whole, to be here, to meet each moment with the presence that knows. I am already enough. I am already light. I am already free. And freedom, you now see, was never about escaping. It was always about embodying, being so rooted in your truth that no storm can uproot your peace, being so aligned with your soul that no opinion can disturb your knowing, being so filled from within that nothing outside can steal your joy. You think now not from habit, but from wholeness. Each thought a sacred ripple, each word a blessing. You no longer speak just to be heard, you speak to awaken. You no longer act to be validated, you act to express what overflows. And you no longer seek love, you become the place where love begins. This is your homecoming, the return to your divine self, not dressed in perfection, but in presence. Not shining from effort, but from remembrance. And so, walk now with soft steps and strong faith. Let your life be a living prayer, not for more, but for deeper. Deeper seeing, deeper trusting, deeper being. Because what you think, you become, and now you think with the mind of the soul. You see with the eyes of the heart. You live not as someone trying to arrive, but as one who has already remembered. I am whole. I am the thought that chose love. I am the becoming that needs no end. And in this final breath of truth, quiet, holy, and forever you rest. Not because the journey is over, but because you have become the journey itself. There is a sacred rhythm that underlies all of life. It is not taught in schools, not captured in textbooks, not spoken of in the noise of everyday conversation. And yet it pulses beneath everything, beneath your breath, beneath your heartbeat, beneath every desire you have ever felt. It is the rhythm of the divine, quietly orchestrating the dance of galaxies and guiding every blade of grass as it reaches for the Sunday. You too are part of that sacred rhythm. You are not separate from it. You are not an observer of it. You are it. You are a living, breathing note in the music of the infinite. But how easily we forget. We fall asleep to our own divinity. We believe we are separate, alone, incomplete. We live as though the power that moves worlds is something we must chase, rather than something we already carry. We have been conditioned to strive, to achieve, to control. But manifestation is not a game of control. It is a practice of surrender, a return, a softening into the truth that what we seek is already seeking us. And more than that, it already exists within us. Manifestation is not about forcing life to bend to your will. It is about remembering that your will, when aligned with the divine, becomes effortless. Like water flowing downhill, like light piercing the darkness, Like breath returning to the lungs, you do not need to make it happen. You need only to allow it. And you allow it by aligning not with your fears, not with your doubts, not with the small self that believes in lack, but with the boundless, limitless self that knows no separation from source. This is the great secret of instant manifestation. It is not about getting more. It is about becoming still enough to recognize that you already are more than enough. The universe does not respond to your words. It responds to your state, to your vibration, to your alignment. When you are aligned with truth, with love, with gratitude, with inner stillness, then life rises to meet you in ways that appear miraculous. But they are not miracles. They are simply the natural outcome of being who you truly are. The ego will always tell you that you are lacking. It will whisper that you are not ready, not worthy, not yet complete. It will point to the future and say, when you get there, then you can relax. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that everything you desire, peace, love, joy, abundance, is not found in the distance. It is found in the now, in the depth of this moment, in the quiet space where your thoughts grow still and your being becomes spacious. When you align with the divine, you stop resisting what is. You stop grasping. You stop manipulating. And instead, you listen. You listen with your heart, with your intuition, with your entire being. You feel the subtle tug of truth beneath the noise of the world, and you follow it, not with desperation, but with trust, not with effort, but with grace. You are never meant to chase your dreams like a beggar at the gates of life. You are meant to stand in the knowing that you are one with the dreamer himself. The same power that paints the sunset, that stirs the wind, that spins the stars, that power breathes through you. It does not need to be summoned. It only needs to be remembered. And so I ask you, beloved soul, what if you stop striving? What if you stop seeking outside of yourself for the very thing that already lives within? What if your only task was to return again and again to the stillness of your own heart, to trust that your alignment is enough, to know that when you rest in that sacred space, life unfolds not as a struggle, but as a symphony. The seed does not strive to become the tree. It allows. It trusts. It lets the sunlight in, the rain fall, the earth hold it, and in that trust, it becomes what it was always destined to be. You too are that seed. And the divine is not asking you to prove yourself. It is asking you to remember yourself, to know that your desires are not random. They are echoes of your soul's remembrance of what is already true. You do not manifest by pleading with the universe. You manifest by becoming the vibration of the thing you seek. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. So who are you willing to become? Not someday, not when it's convenient. But now, let go of the idea that your past determines your future. Let go of the belief that you must earn your worth. Let go of the illusion that you are separate from the source of all creation. And remember that the universe does not speak in words. It speaks in feeling, in frequency, in alignment. And when you align with the divine, when you sit in silence and feel the sacred current of love that has never stopped flowing through you, then you are no longer trying to manifest. You are manifesting, because manifestation is not an act. It is a state of being. The mind will always ask, what must I do? It is obsessed with strategies, with tactics, with action. But the soul does not speak the language of doing. The soul speaks in the language of being. And this is the essence of alignment. Not a frantic rush toward a goal, but a sacred stillness that knows the goal is already within. Imagine the Sunday. It does not rise because it tries. It does not shine because it earned permission. It shines because that is its nature. And you too were created to shine not through force, but through essence, not through striving, but through remembering. To align with the divine is to surrender your small will into the infinite wisdom of life itself. It is to say, I no longer resist what is. I no longer need to be anything other than who I truly am. And in that surrender, you become a vessel open, clear, ready. Ready not just to receive, but to radiate. Ready not just to manifest things, but to embody truth. What the ego calls manifestation is often just glorified grasping. But what the soul calls manifestation is resonance, harmony, co-creation. When you are aligned, you are not waiting for life to happen to you. You are participating in the sacred unfolding of it. Each moment becomes a brushstroke in a masterpiece that the divine is painting through your very existence. But the mind is impatient. It will demand proof. It will ask, where is it? Why hasn't it happened yet? It will use the passing of time as evidence against your worth. But time is not the measure of alignment. Presence is. And the present moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this stillness is the only point of power you will ever have. There is no power in the past. There is no power in the imagined future. There is only power here, in this now. And when you claim this now, when you inhabit it fully, without resistance, then all that is aligned with your soul begins to move toward you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. The divine is not somewhere far away, deciding whether or not to bless you. The divine is within you, as you, through you. It is your breath. It is your awareness. It is the quiet hum beneath all your thoughts. And when you drop beneath the noise of the ego, you enter the field of miracles. Not because the world changed, but because your perception did. You begin to see that abundance is not something to acquire, it is something to allow. Love is not something to find, it is something to express. Peace is not something to reach, it is something to remember. The most powerful manifester is not the one who controls the most, but the one who surrenders the deepest, who dares to trust the unseen, who listens not with their ears, but with their being, who walks not by fear, but by inner knowing. You will not always understand the timing, you will not always see the path, but if you trust deeply, reverently, without demand, then life will reveal itself to you in ways you could never have planned. Because alignment opens doors that effort could never find. And so the real question is not, what do you want to manifest? The real question is, who must you become to allow what is already yours? You are not here to create a life of empty achievement. You are here to become a living expression of the divine, to walk this world as a radiant reminder of what it means to live from truth, to breathe from love, to speak from wisdom. And when you live like that, when your vibration becomes a match for the highest version of reality, then manifestation is not something you do. It is something that happens through you, effortlessly, naturally, instantly, because alignment is instant. It is the moment you say yes to your own soul. And in that yes, all things are made possible. There comes a moment, if you are still long enough, when you feel it, an unexplainable peace that does not depend on the outside world. It rises from within like a forgotten melody that was always playing, only drowned out by the static of thought. In that stillness you remember, you are not separate from the field of creation. You are not a beggar at the gates of heaven, you are the gates, and you are heaven. You are the portal through which the divine expresses itself into form. But this world has trained you otherwise. It taught you to seek approval, to prove your worth, to measure your value against ever-changing standards. And so we learn to strive, to compete, to control. We become performers on a stage, forgetting the stage itself was built upon sacred ground. We lose sight of the truth that manifestation does not begin in the mind, but in the stillness before the mind. Not in the story, but in the silence. And so the invitation is not to think more powerful thoughts. It is to return to the space before thought, to the source, to the vast, boundless awareness that was there before you ever learned your name, to that which watches the play of your life unfold without judgment, without resistance, without fear. This awareness, this presence is the divine, not a being in the sky, but a being within you, not a force to be manipulated, but a current to be trusted. When you align with this, you stop trying to manifest through the mind and begin manifesting through resonance. You become a tuning fork for the frequencies of love, peace, and abundance. And what you resonate with, you receive not because you demanded it, but because you remembered who you are. You are not here to force the world to bend to your will. You are here to dissolve the illusion of separation so fully that the world begins to bend with you, not in submission, but in harmony. For when you are aligned, life no longer resists you. It dances with you. The river does not resist the fish. The sky does not resist the bird. And the universe does not resist the soul that remembers its place within the whole. Let yourself be like the ocean, vast, open, deep. Do not clutch at the waves of experience. Let them rise. Let them fall. You are not the wave, you are the ocean in which the wave moves. You are not your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances. You are the awareness that holds them, and that awareness is the same in all beings. It is the thread that weaves all things together. It is the divine intelligence that breathes your lungs and turns acorns into forests. When you realize this not as an idea, but as a lived truth, then you no longer seek to manifest from lack. You do not say, I need more. You say, I already am. And from that place, your desires take on a different quality. They are no longer cries of desperation, they are songs of celebration. You are not asking life to complete you. You are inviting life to express through you. This is the shift. This is alignment. This is when manifestation becomes not an act, but a byproduct. Like a flower that opens not because it forces itself to bloom, but because it aligns with the Sunday, so too do your dreams unfold when you align with your essence. But how do we do this, you ask? Not by effort, not by control, but by surrender, by release, by remembrance. Let go of the timeline, let go of the outcome, let go of the belief that you must suffer to deserve, and instead, allow yourself to be as you are, right now. Breathe into this moment as if it were holy, because it is. Every moment is sacred when seen through the eyes of truth. You are already whole, already loved, already worthy. Your alignment is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. When your heart is soft, when your mind is quiet, when your being is present, you are aligned. And when you are aligned, you are magnetic. Not to things, but to truth. Not to outcomes, but to the deepest expression of your soul. This is how the divine manifests instantly, not by calculation, but by coherence, by resonance, by vibration. You become the song, and life begins to dance. You become the light, and the path appears. You become the peace, and the chaos dissolves. You do not do this by escaping the world. You do it by fully entering it with presence, with softness, with sacred attention. When you walk aligned with the divine, the universe is no longer a test. It is a canvas, a playground, a mirror reflecting the love that lives within you. And in that state, you do not need to chase. You attract. You do not need to strive. You allow. You do not need to manipulate. You simply trust. And in that trust, everything becomes possible. There is a knowing beyond thought, a wisdom that does not speak in words. Yet when you hear it, the whole of your being responds with a calm yes. It is the whisper of the divine within you, gently inviting you back to your center. Not to solve your life, but to live it. Not to fix yourself, but to feel yourself fully, unapologetically, intimately. So much of the struggle we experience comes from forgetting this center. We are pulled into the current of appearances, the swirling storm of conditions and comparisons, and we begin to believe the lie that life is something outside of us, something to catch up to, something to control. But life is not outside you. It never was. It is happening through you, in you, as you. And manifestation, true, sacred, effortless manifestation, begins not when you master life, but when you merge with it. You are not here to conquer the world. You are here to realize you already contain it. The entire cosmos, every galaxy, every law of physics, every sacred pattern of intelligence is reflected in you. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm, the breath of eternity held within a single human form. And yet, how quickly we forget this truth. We buy into the illusion of separateness, the seductive spell of not enough. We listen to the mind's chatter, and in doing so, we drift from the divine frequency of our own soul. But your soul has never stopped calling you home. It has waited with the patience of mountains, with the softness of moonlight, with the certainty of the tide. Every desire you've ever had has been its invitation not to accumulate, but to align. So pause. Listen not with your ears, but with your being. Feel the presence beneath the words, the stillness beneath the breath. This is where alignment begins, not with action, but with awareness. Not with planning, but with presence. When you remember who you truly are, manifestation stops being an event and becomes a byproduct. Like the fragrance of a flower or the warmth of the sun, it arises effortlessly from your being. It requires no striving, no pushing, no proving. It only requires that you become inwardly clear, so rooted in truth, that all falsehoods dissolve before you like shadows before the dawn. And this clarity cannot be forced. It cannot be faked. It arises naturally when you surrender, when you release the need to be anything other than who and what you are. when you let go of trying to become and allow yourself to be, in that sacred beingness, you rediscover a power that is not of this world, though it moves through this world. It is the power of presence, the power of grace, the power of divine alignment. Do not underestimate this power. It is the same force that moves planets, splits atoms, and brings stars into being. And it does not speak in thunder. It does not shout to be heard. It arrives in the hush, in the reverence, in the deep surrender of your spirit back to itself. You are not separate from this power. You are made of it. Your cells, your breath, your heartbeat all form from the intelligence of Source. You are not a creation apart from the Creator. You are the Creator in form, experiencing its own expansion through you. And this is why your desires matter. Not because they are trophies, but because they are the compass of your soul. They are not random. They are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the way the divine seeks to know itself through you. So when you long for peace, you are not chasing a fantasy, you are remembering your origin. When you yearn for love, you are not lacking, you are realigning with truth. When you dream of abundance, you are not greedy, you are awakening to the infinite nature of your being. Desire, when purified of ego, becomes holy. It becomes the voice of the divine calling you back into coherence with itself. And manifestation, then, is not about manipulating reality to satisfy a fleeting want. It is about embodying the vibration of your soul's truest resonance so completely that life has no choice but to echo it back to you. This is the law, not a law of attraction, but a law of reflection. The world is your mirror. It cannot give you what you are unwilling to become. It cannot show you what you refuse to see within yourself. So if you seek love, become love. If you desire abundance, embody gratitude. If you wish for peace, live from stillness. When your inner world becomes congruent with your desires, the outer world begins to rearrange itself in response. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the divine blueprint already written in your soul. And the beauty of this path is that nothing is missing, not one tool, not one step, not 1 ounce of worthiness. You already have all that is required. You already are all that is required. Your task is not to add more. Your task is to release the noise, the masks, the fear, and to return. Return to the center. Return to presence. Return to truth. This is the way of effortless manifestation. This is the vibration of miracles. Not dramatic, not loud, but deeply, reverently real. And when you live from this place, the universe becomes not your master, but your mirror. And that mirror will reflect wonders you never dreamed possible. There is a moment when you no longer seek miracles because you realize you are one. You are not the result of chance, nor the outcome of effort. You are the deliberate, loving extension of the infinite. You were whispered into existence by the divine, not to struggle, not to strive, but to reveal. Reveal beauty. Reveal truth. Reveal the eternal dance of Source through the art of your life. And when you truly feel this, not just think it, but feel it in your bones, then manifestation becomes inevitable. Not because you forced it to happen, but because you remembered who you were before the world taught you to forget. This remembrance is the doorway. It is the invitation. It is the sacred space where alignment and creation meet. But the world, in its well-meaning noise, taught you otherwise. It taught you to earn what you already are, to strive for what you already possess, to search for what has never been missing. And so you forgot not out of failure, but out of innocence. You began to believe that joy lives in the next moment, that peace waits in the next achievement, that love is the reward for perfection. But the soul knows otherwise. The soul knows that joy is presence, that peace is surrender, that love is not the finish line, but the foundation. You do not manifest love by seeking it. You manifest love by becoming the place where love is welcome, where love is safe, where love is felt so deeply within you that it begins to emanate from your pores, from your silence, from the very way you breathe. Likewise, abundance is not something you attract by obsessing over money. Abundance is a frequency, a deep inner yes to life. A knowing that all your needs are met, not because you have counted every coin, but because you have aligned with the Source that creates all coins, all wealth, all provision. True abundance is not having more. It is needing less because you have remembered your union with the source of all. This is the paradox of alignment. The less you chase, the more you receive. The more you release, the more you allow. The more you rest in being, the more life flows toward you with grace. To the ego, this seems like nonsense. It will scream, do more, try harder, hustle. And if you follow that voice, you may indeed gain, but what you gain will never satisfy because it was born from lack. What you manifest from fear only amplifies fear. What you create from pressure only multiplies pressure. But what you manifest from alignment lasts, heals, expands, because it comes from wholeness. So I ask you now, who are you when there is nothing to prove? Who are you when you no longer chase outcomes but embody truth? Who are you when your identity is not built on achievement but on essence? The moment you step into that knowing, the entire fabric of your life begins to change. Not all at once, not with fanfare, but like a dawn rising slowly, light touching every shadow, warmth replacing every chill. People you once struggled to please fall away effortlessly. Opportunities that felt impossible begin to show up without effort. Paths you didn't even know existed begin to unfold beneath your feet, not because you planned it, but because you aligned with it. This is not magic. This is law. The law of resonance, the law of vibration, the law of inner truth reflecting outer experience. You do not receive what you pray for in desperation. You receive what you are in alignment with. So if you want to shift your life, shift your state, shift your story, shift your frequency. This does not mean pretending to be happy. It means being honest enough to sit with what is, to hold it, to bless it, and to rise from it with clarity. There is no manifestation without presence. There is no alignment without truth. You must be willing to feel what you've avoided, to release what no longer fits, to grieve the versions of yourself that were born from survival, not soul. And then, in the sacred space left behind, you begin again. But this time not from force, not from fantasy, but from alignment, from presence, from truth, from divine essence. And in that sacred space, the impossible becomes inevitable. And so it is, after all the searching, the reaching, the striving, you arrive back here, back to the center that never moved, back to the quiet fire of your own being, back to the presence that asked for nothing, yet held everything. You begin to see that the journey was never about gathering, but about shedding. Not about becoming greater, but about remembering how vast you already are. Not about fixing what was broken, but about revealing what was always whole. This is the alignment the soul speaks of not as a destination, but as a state, a vibration. A sacred attunement with the frequency of all that is. It is the great return, not to a version of yourself that fits the world's mold, but to the self that existed before the world wrote its name on your skin. And in this return, manifestation ceases to be a goal. It becomes a natural consequence of your being, like breath, like sunlight, like waves returning home to the sea. You don't need to try anymore. You don't need to prove. You don't need to scream your worth into a world too distracted to hear it. Your presence is enough. Your stillness is enough. Your very existence is an affirmation of the divine dreaming itself awake through you. And so the great mystery is revealed not in thunder, but in stillness. Not in power, but in surrender. Not in doing, but in allowing. Allowing yourself to be what you already are. You see now, manifestation is not a tool for the ego. It is a song of the soul. A quiet symphony that begins to play when the walls of fear dissolve and your true essence rises to the surface like dawn. It does not arrive through calculation. It arrives through coherence. When you become the vibration of peace, peace must meet you. When you become the presence of love, love must reflect you. When you become the openness of abundance, abundance must flow to you, not as reward, but as reflection. There is nothing to chase. There is only what you choose to embody. There is nothing to wait for. There is only what you choose to feel now. There is no more becoming. There is only being, and in this being, everything shifts. Your breath becomes sacred. Your thoughts grow spacious. Your energy becomes magnetic. And life, oh life, begins to mirror back the beauty you have remembered within yourself. Not as a favor, not as a fluke, but as law, as rhythm, as the inevitable unfolding of alignment. The river flows not because it pushes, but because it yields. So too must you yield, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Yield to the current of your soul. Yield to the knowing that you are already whole. Yield to the truth that what you seek has always lived within you. And from this yielded place, speak softly to your heart. I do not need to chase. I choose to align. I do not need to prove. I choose to remember. I do not need to strive. I choose to surrender, because I am already enough, already whole, already one with the divine. And so, let this moment be your altar. Let this breath be your offering. Let your being be your prayer. You no longer need to climb to the heavens to find your power. You are the heavens, descending into form. You are the sacred walking. You are the manifestation, becoming conscious of itself. And from this knowing, miracles are not made. They are recognized, because what you have longed for, what you have wept for, what you have dreamed beneath stars and screamed into pillows in the dark was never lost. It was only buried beneath the noise. And now the noise has softened. The veil has lifted. The alignment has returned. And you, holy, radiant, infinite, you have come home to yourself. There is nothing more to do. There is only everything to allow. And so it is. And so it always has been. And now, now you are free.